Hey, I'm Pastor Mitch Todd, and this is Connection Point, a podcast of Center Point Christian Church here in Venice, Florida. Connection Point is an introduction to some of the people that make Center Point so special. Hey, welcome Center Point family. I'm Mitch Todd. I'm here with a very special guest today on our podcast. We have a very special program happening right now at our church, an event happening where we're building a new worship center, 1,000-seat auditorium. And I am here with one of the owners of J2, Jess Frankowiak. I just butchered that right off the bat. Jess
Frankowiak.
Jess Frankowiak. I have had him in my phone this entire time as J2 Jess. So welcome, Jess.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad that our folks will get a chance to know you. They hear us talk about J2 all the time. And you can't drive around Venice without seeing what you guys have done to help build the community around here. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
And but before we get to that, I want our people. I fell in love with J2 and you right off the bat. And so tell us a little bit about your life, though. Tell us about.
All right. Well,
what do you do outside of J2 first?
Well, truth be told, construction's not known for its tranquil nature. It gets a little bit hectic and chaotic. A lot of things always go wrong in construction. So to answer your question directly, I like to do long-distance hiking if I can. If I can strap on a backpack, I like hitting the national parks, mountains.
Have you done Yosemite?
I've done Yosemite. I've done Zion. I've done a lot of different ones. I'm going, a lot of my good friends, I'm turning 50 this year, don't tell. I actually just turned 50, and this year I want to do a long one, and we're going to go out to North Cascades National Park.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to do, I can't remember now, I think it's like a 40-something mile trek out in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be awesome.
I have a whole story. I won't tell it today, but when I was turned 40, I did a trip. My buddy had paid for this whole thing. We all went out. There's 7 of us, and we backpacked for like 6 days in Yosemite.
That's awesome.
And I climbed Half Dome. I had failed at climbing Half Dome once before, and this was his trip that he told me, "You're going to conquer your fear."
Did you do it?
I did. I'm actually going to do a whole message on that particular
There's so many parallels you can make between hiking and...
Oh, there is. It's
so
crazy. So you guys like to hike, and you guys do that as a family too?
Not really.
Do that more?
I have found that hiking is one of those weird things. Whenever you invite people, or you tell people about it, they say, "Oh, I'd love to do that. That's awesome." I say, "Why don't you come with me?" And it's like, it backs up. So my family and they like to camp, but they don't like to hike. So there's a little bit of a nuance there. So.
Are they glamping? Are they glampers?
We just have an RV trailer.
Yeah,
we can do little stuff like that.
We have a little Winnebago.
Yeah, you got to choose your battles. So I
liked camping even in the roughing it, but Michelle said, you're going to be going by yourself all the time. So
there you go.
I thought, well, if I'm going to have her go with me, I need to get something.
That's awesome. Yeah. So cool. Well, what can I tell you about?
Yeah. So you guys are building the building, and what's been some of the things that why you got into construction in the beginning? What's some of that?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me go back and I'll it's funny how when you look back in time, all the pieces kind of fall into place. So we actually, my family and I was roughly 10 years old. We moved from Buffalo, New York, and I don't know how my parents ever decided on Venice, but that's when we moved here. And again, I was 10 years old.
You've been here since you're 10?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So roughly 1985.
You're a Venetian, yeah.
I am. It's weird, though. I still consider myself from New York, even though I've been here the vast majority of my life. But unfortunate circumstances. My father was a builder in Western New York, very small builder, a very, very small town. When he started up his own little log cabin business where he actually had a mill, like he was a lumberjack type of thing, and he'd build these cabins. And I was too young to really understand it, but I was told in the late 70s, interest rates went really high, kind of killed the housing market. My family actually ended up going bankrupt, and they lost everything, lost their house. Wow. And so my dad kind of viewed it as just like a big reset, him and my mom. So we moved down here to wonderful Venice, Florida. Again, I was too little. I don't remember any of this stuff. So we came down. We set up shop here. So I went to Venice Elementary, Venice Middle, Venice High School. I have one older brother. His name is Josh, and That's where the J2 comes from, Jess and Josh.
I was going to ask, that's going to be the questions.
He was older than me, and when I started getting into high school, I started working with my older brother. He started his own construction company as a rough framer, and it was one of those weird dynamics where Dad said I had to work with my brother, and I couldn't quit, and vice versa. My brother couldn't fire me, so I said, forget this, I'm going to school. So I ended up going to the University of Florida. Kind of just like a lot of college students, when you get there, you kind of don't know what you want to do in life, and I kind of dabbling around until I got a couple years into it, and I had to determine what course I'm going to go, and I discovered civil engineering. It's a long story, but I discovered civil engineering because it's concrete, it's steel, it's a lot of things that I kind of grew up with in my family, construction, but it was cool, and I'm a geek at heart, and I like that sort of thing, so went that route. I graduated with a background in civil engineering, but what's cool about civil engineering is you don't necessarily have to become an engineer. Good portion, I don't know the exact numbers, but a fair percentage, I'll say like 25% or so, they actually go into the construction field. So right at the time I graduated college, I just started dating a girl who's now my wife. She was in engineering school too, and she had another year plus to finish out. So I didn't want to come back home, which is Venice. Again, University of Florida is in Gainesville, and I figured Tampa's in the middle, so that's where I went. I was burnt out going to college for such a long time. I said, I'm just going to take the first construction job I could find. Literally, I just interviewed the first one. I got an offer on the first one, and I took it, not knowing what I did. And I was a project manager, and you're kind of stupid coming out of school. They kind of give you a big head, like you're the best thing in the world. And I honestly didn't know. I knew how to design things. I knew more than I should about concrete and steel and all that type of thing, but they don't really teach you how to read blueprints, or they don't teach you much about that. So I got thrown into the deep end with it was a big construction company that was headquartered out of St. Louis, but they had just a satellite field office in Tampa, and that's the job, or that's where I got hired at. So my boss basically said, when I got hired on, he said, do you want to run your own projects, by yourself, like you're in control, but they're smaller in nature, or do you want to be part of the big projects where you're going to play a smaller role and there's going to be others? And I said, I'd rather do the smaller ones. So right off the get-go, it was a steep learning curve, but I had a lot of good people around me. And basically what we did, I worked all over the state of Florida. I built my first jobs. I did a lot of work for GTE and Verizon back then, doing expansions on switch stations. And I also, one of my bigger anchor clients was American Express Financial, and I would always go and open up new offices for them. And so it was a lot of travel, learned a lot. The tangent story that happened here, this is the school of the tough nature of the business that you didn't learn about. That construction office that I would work for, they went through it right when I got hired in. They went through a period of explosive growth. I told you they were a satellite office. Mm-hmm. They actually started doing the projects that they were most known for. Is they were building. The new thing was coming out in the late '90s and the early 2000s called the internet, and they were building these server stations for these high-tech .com companies. And this is literally when the pre-.com, like money was just being thrown at this industry. And this company, construction company, was building all these data centers. Now, again, I was working in these little side projects, not necessarily affiliated with that. But when that .com bubble started to collapse a little bit, I got hired. I graduated in 2000, so we all know when the .com bubble popped. I got hired in 2000. For the time that I was there, even though I was busy over here doing these smaller projects, the company was going through some extraordinary challenges because a lot of the clients, the .com, literally the bubble
just
popped,
folded up,
and they couldn't get, the construction company that I worked for couldn't get paid. That created a whole cascading effects, and eventually they closed the office, and I got kind of my walking papers in a sense because I discovered what last in, first out means. So
how old were you then?
I was 28, I guess, give or take, 26, 28. But the good news is I had come from a family that was all entrepreneurial in nature. And if you were to ask my soul, I always knew that I wanted to start my own business at one time. And I'm a Christian guy, and sometimes God has a way of helping you along with things. So when I got my walk-in papers, because just, again, the company was going through extraordinary challenges, a lot of people got laid off in that round. I had my my civil engineering degree, which allowed you to take the Florida contractor's license exam early, which I did and I passed. So I had a contractor's license. I always knew I wanted to start a business. And now I was engaged to what I call my sugar mama wife, my civil engineering wife. And I said, her name is Sonia. She's wonderful. And literally, I had everything going for me. Like, now's a good time if we started a company. And let's go ahead and do it. So we did. So still in that college mindset. I was very fortunate. My wife, I owe my entire company and my teammates. We owe J2's existence to my wife. And full disclosure, my business partner David, his wife too. Her name is Cindy. She was a nurse. They gave us the bandwidth and held it down while we could do that heavy lifting to get that business off the ground. There's a lot of work in the beginning. So we did. That's how J2 started. We moved back to Venice in 2002. We started. We just one-man band. Started in the residential world. It's a little bit easier. Tangent to that, I didn't share this, but I will. All during college, I told you my brother was a framer. I was working quite a bit during my college years. Coming home from school was tough. I'm a good B student if I work hard. And I would come home and I needed the break from school. And every summer, I'd put on a tool belt, because it made more money, to be honest, than flipping burgers in Gainesville. So I could make more money doing construction. I always viewed it as a summer gig, not knowing, but I'm learning, honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got to do construction work for probably a decade with my hands, learning it, just knowing the system. Between my work in Tampa and my work in school before that, wearing a tool belt, it was a wonderful foundation. So when we did actually start the actual business, it was off to the races.
You know, one of the things that drew me to you guys at J2 was the remodel of this building that happened. This is before I was here. Are you up to speed on that? Do you know what the story was on that?
Parts of it.
Like the story that I heard was that, hey, the church needed to be remodeled, and I saw pictures, and they were right. It needed to be remodeled. You guys did a great job in this. It's been so homey, and honestly, I think it's been the remodel has been a big portion of why people feel comfortable inviting their friends to come here. But I know there was some special story there. I don't want to get it wrong, but there was some special story there that you guys came in and really saved us so much money during that time because of PPP or something like that. Can you tell that story a little bit? Or?
Yeah. So the quick way to summarize that is that we are. At that time, I don't remember exactly. This is obviously PPP is associated with COVID and all that.
Right. It was 2020 or something.
Yeah,
right.
And a little bit behind the scenes for the listeners out there, our construction company has a very strong specialization in doing work inside of acute healthcare facilities. So you can imagine when we were doing the midst of COVID, we're the company that basically enables the first responders to treat the patients, but very scary for us because we didn't know. We do so much work in containment and keeping doctors and everybody safe. It was very scary for us during that time because we didn't know if we were sending our employees into a very dangerous, unsafe area.
Because nobody knew it.
Yeah,
it was, early days, nobody knew.
Exactly, it was very, very tough. But we were pivoted. No one, thank goodness, everything worked out just fine. But I'm very proud to say, through a lot of work for a lot of people, we didn't lay anybody off. We were. In that era, all the construction industry was considered an essential industry. So most contractors, commercial contractors, they never missed a beat because we were so inundated in the healthcare sector.
Oh yeah,
it literally in a 2 week
kind of insulated you guys a little bit.
No, in a 2 week window, all the regular healthcare projects that we had were stopped.
Oh,
like 95% of them. They said we're pausing this project. We don't want any outside people coming into our hospital, but as much as that we kind of panicked a little bit. I have like 50 men and women that work for me. Like, now what? No sooner thereafter, the hospital kind of pivoted and they said, okay, we have to do all these projects to prepare for, God forbid, terrible things to happen. So we call it containment and things of that. So we got other types of work. We did a lot of work in the prison system back then, and they were happy because everybody was kind of the safest thing for the prisoners. Unfortunately, was to keep them in their cells. So that allowed us to do some work there. We got through it. because we got through it, we didn't have to lay anybody off. Because we didn't lay anybody off, that kind of helps in the PPE equation. And we were blessed to get a little bit of money to come into our organization. Dovetail, God works in mysterious ways. Here's this new church that we were dealing with over with you guys here. And again, I mentioned it already, I'm a Christian guy. I like helping churches. It's kind of how I get a chance to give back through my efforts in our team. And we just helped chip in with some of the money, and we kind of collaboratively with your team, we just basically came up and we remodeled your school.
Well, you guys did a great job. I didn't get to be a part of that. Marilyn Boucher was a big part of that, and so many people in our church. But that was a big reason.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big reason why that wasn't the only reason, but it was a factor of why we chose you guys. Plus we know you're doing Sharkies, and you're doing Agape now, and wrapping up Venice Christian School and the Bridge Church, and I don't. There's others that we've seen signs for. Those are the ones that are more dear to my heart.
It was funny. I'll tell you a quick little funny story. I feel old because little side story. My daughter and I did a dad-daughter trip. Literally just a few days ago. I got back late in the airport yesterday with my daughter, and we're in the baggage terminal at Sarasota-Bradenton Sarasota Airport. And so we're just waiting. There's a sign. It says, it was for the Venice Peer Group. It said Sharky's, Snook Haven, and Finn's Restaurant. And I looked at my daughter. I'm like, you know what? I've done work on, Snook Haven's no longer here. Right. Snook Haven, Finn's, and Sharky's. And I said, I've done work on all three of these things. And I look over to my right, and Sarasota Memorial has a big welcome to Sarasota, and it says their new cancer institute, the Brian D. Jellison Cancer. We work with another big contractor. It was a teaming agreement. It was a Turner Construction, but that was I think it was a $140 million project we just finished up just a few moments ago. And I'm like, oh, we did that one too. And then I look up, and then it says another sign, visit historic downtown Venice. And it's I think it's called the Schoolcraft Building. It's a historic building on the corner of Venice Avenue and West Venice Avenue in Nokomis. It's where Venice Wine and Coffee is at. We did an exterior facade. It was a historic renovation.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we did that too. And I'm just kind of like, man, I feel like I'm getting old because we've touched enough projects around town.
I think you guys have invested in the community so much, and that was a big reason for why we wanted to go with you guys too. Why did you? What makes working on Centerpoint, our project? What makes that special to you? And I know you are a man of faith, and I know. We'll get to this. I want to make sure we get to this before we go. So don't let me forget to get to this about the making sure that your employees know that they're doing more than just concrete stuff. We'll get to that. But tell me why did you want to do our project?
Well, of course I knew everybody here. I knew you. I met you before this project comes up, and I knew. I've been in Venice a long time. I knew Marilyn, and I know a lot of people. I won't name all the names, but I knew a lot of people that come here. And, man, I can answer that in a lot of different ways. Let's start with the big one. It's God's kingdom. You know what I mean? And I'm a general contractor, but let me kind of peel it back a little bit. I'm just a dumb contractor. We build stuff and stuff like that. And there's always the joy of seeing it come together, whether it's a church or anything. It's neat to take something from the napkin. It's creation. You get to build something. A lot of the people on my team would say that's what they enjoy doing construction work or anything like that. For me, it's a little bit different because I'm usually involved on the front end. Usually, I start when there's hey, we have an idea. What do you think and stuff like that. In terms of how do we get this to a reality, and in churches, there's a lot of dynamics involved. God's time. You got to leave a little room for God and stuff like that. And it starts with an idea, and then the idea changes, and there's a lot of voices that play a role in that. And it's almost divine in how it comes to fruition, and that's neat. And for me, I get to do the podcast with you. I'm just the guy that does the podcast. Behind it, there's men and women that make it happen. And usually, what ends up happening, and I don't know if I'm kind of getting into the other part that you want to cover a little bit, but I wish, there's always that it's gonna happen here. It's that first Sunday when we have our new building, and like we're here. Like, how did this happen? Like, and that's cool. And that's what I wish my team. I'm doing this podcast for that reason. I wish they can see that, when they're out there and things go wrong on the job site, and things always go wrong on the job site. There's always delays. There's always hurricanes, God forbid. All these things that happen. Yeah. But when it's done, and we will get there, that's the coolest thing. And that's what gives me so much joy to be in this industry.
So I just cleaned my garage. I finished it on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I've been working on it for 6 years since I moved to Venice. I mean, I'm not
Congratulations.
kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I just literally started working. I went through all my tools. Oh, I got containers for them. I got the label maker. I labeled it all. My garage is the cleanest it's been in 8 years. 8 years, even before the house, even before this one. And I got done. I finally got done, and I just got my lawn chair out, and I went and sat in my garage.
Admired it.
It's 100 degrees in there. Yeah. And I just sat in my garage, and I'm just going, look at this. Yeah. Look what I did.
Yeah, man.
Do you do that when you're finished with a project? Do you just kind of go, do you ever just kind of go, you just do extra drive-bys and you just kind of go, you know what? I had a hand in that.
Yeah. It's.
I made fire.
You're going to laugh, but I see it a little differently. If you'll allow me to share it now, I spent a lot of time, again, our team today, is approximately 60 employees, maybe 70, somewhere in that range. I don't know the exact count. But as my job, I always try to connect the meaning of our work beyond bricks and sticks.
Yeah.
And so we have a just cause, and it says we build the spaces that empower others to bring healing, hope, and life to our communities.
Oh, that's great. Say it again.
We build the spaces.
We build the spaces
that empower others.
To
bring healing, hope, and life. Healing, hope, and life to our communities.
That's great. I love that.
Now, it doesn't mean that's everybody sees that, but I mean, it's not about us. We empower others. It ain't about us. We are in a service type of mindset. We help other people. It ain't about us. You know what I mean? So nowhere in our office will you find any goals associated with revenue or being the biggest, the best, the highest, the as Simon Sinek says, the best provider of the lowest possible prices or anything like that. I don't believe in our competitors or anything like that. I believe that our organization's been placed in a very rough industry, and we tried the best we can to be a light to help others through it. Are we perfect at all times? Absolutely not, but we do our best.
Yeah. Some of the let's move to no, let's don't. Let's touch on this. I want to make sure that our people, and myself included, do the best job possible whenever we're interacting with your people to help them understand that what they're building is not steel and concrete in a building. What they're building is a place where marriages are going to be restored and where people are going to find freedom. They're going to know God. They're going to understand their purpose. They're going to make a difference in the world too around them. I mean, I want your people to know that as well.
That's awesome.
And I want our people to know that when your people are out there working, that that's what they're really helping us to.
No, I agree.
Have the best tool possible to help other people. That's what this is the best tool possible.
Absolutely.
That we can afford, that you guys can build, that we can get off the ground here. Speaking of that, I know there's been some challenges, and we don't need to get into, I know we lift station and all that stuff, but we're not talking about that. That's just stuff that you guys deal with all the time. I think even before the podcast, I was going, I don't even know. I don't know enough about this to know is this normal? Is this normal delay stuff? Is this just the way that things go? And then what about after hurricane? Was that different? Was it different post 2022?
You're talking about last year?
Or post 2024 after Milton or after Ian? Was it? I feel like, because I did this a long time ago, 20 years ago, we built our last big building. And it seemed like it was a lot easier, but that was a different county. It was a different time.
Yeah. Well, there's always challenges in construction. I'll say this. I'll answer that question in a roundabout way, but I'll bring it back. Okay. So getting back to the timeline that I told you before, when I started J2 Solutions, and we started in the residential area, not commercial, because honestly, they're smaller projects. And remember, my dad went bankrupt as a builder, and I didn't want to get into debt, so I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. I believe in that. And the biggest way you can get in trouble as a builder is getting ahead of your skis, trying to go too fast, too quick. So we like to, as a Dave Ramsey quote, we like to be a crock pot. We don't like to be a microwave. So we're just a slow and steady approach, and I'm grateful for that. We grow at the speed we can pay for ourselves, and we've been very, very methodical in doing that. When you did a lot of residential construction, you kind of understand what's really happening behind the scenes with customers. And in all my career, I don't sell. I don't do that. I try to educate people on the process as much as possible. And most people, you know, if I had to kind of summarize or kind of wrap all the residential customers into one personality, most people, they're not driving for a hard bargain. They just want to make sure they're not getting taken advantage of. They want some sort of assurance they're going to get it over the line, you know what I mean? And they're not going to be taken advantage of, really, at the end of the day. And so to the degree that we could be more transparent and more share, you know, the better it was. Now, aside from that, if you look at the dynamics of our construction industry, okay, this is just what it is. You know, it's kind of like the characteristics of something. Whether you like it or you're not, it is what it is. It's very dangerous. People get hurt a lot, okay? So there's a lot of rules and regulations and safety associated with that. It deals with incredibly high dollar amounts. Construction's not cheap, millions of dollars in some cases, like here. It's fraught with a lot of administrative paperwork and, you know, legalese and insurances and stuff like that. So it's very complicated on the surface. There's a bureaucratic nature to it with the building departments and
the permitting.
And multiple agencies. I mean, literally multiple. It's not just a building department. It's the Department of Transportation. It's the Southwest Florida Water Management District. It's just, you know, it's all wrapped into one, and they don't talk. You know, and basically then it's litigious. That's another thing. And you wrap all this together, the margins are very, 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 very squeezed. They're very thin. And on the construction side, because margins are squeezed and people are always looking for the little underlying thing is everybody thinks all contractors generally, without articulating this, most people think all contractors are the same. So because all contractors are the same, they're looking at the same set of plans. We're going to go always with the lowest price. Contractors, generally, they can make mistakes or they can get too thin and they get over their skis, and that's when bad things happen. And everybody knows these horrible stories about bad change orders or this, that, and the other. So you mix all that together. It's not a fun industry, but that's where we help. And I do feel called to. I'd like to think our company can help people through that just by kind of laying it out on the table and explaining things to customers and how the game is played. So like we do it here. Almost all our contracts we do is just open book, transparent. We'd rather you look at the numbers and we look at it together. I always like to use the example of, let's say we're looking, you see everything. If we have 5 quotes for landscaping, you know, and one's, I'm making these numbers up, one's $100 and one's $105, one's $95 and one's $20. The $20 one isn't right. It's not right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Probably not.
Most people understand that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to contractors, a lot of times people, if you went with a lump sum, a lot of times people judge contractors that way. So we feel, especially with, I'm going to say any organization that has a board, but a church kind of falls in that one. A lot of times people go into those things and they just don't know, like they don't know what's going on. What do I need to know? Do I just put bids out? And they don't speak construction language. They don't know how the game is played. They don't know where the pitfalls are. So that's where we come in, and especially with churches. There's always a lot of times in a church environment there's a fundraising component of this, and you got to get it right. You don't want to go in too little because if something bad happens, it's not good for the church or anything like that. So that's where we come in, and we like to just, and as not just you guys but everybody, we like to we view ourselves as guides. And again, we help others. You know what I mean? Remember, that's part of our just cause.
Yeah.
We like to educate as much as we can. We like to be transparent. We like to show how the game is played, and just be the friend like you'd like to have in the industry, that type of thing. And that's been a good recipe.
I don't know where we would be with half the conversations and without you guys. What do you think? Where are we at with our project right now?
So that's okay. So that's the second part of your question. So yeah, we had some hiccups on this project. I wish I could tell you every single project goes smooth in construction. Again, we're guys.
I've actually never heard of one, but
I've never heard of one either. But I think hope's a good thing, and everybody goes into. I do too. I go into these. I go into these projects hoping. We had some challenges in the beginning. It's a long story. I won't go into the details of why. We both know there were some hiccups in the very, very beginning, but that's okay. Basically, I'm going to, for the listeners out there, summarizing everything. We had a couple different ponies changing between engineers and whatnot that kind of got the design wires crossed a little bit in the very beginning during the permitting process. We got some feedback that we changed some basically parameters on some of the lift stations and whatnot, and left hand didn't talk to the right hand through the department, and by the time we got a permit issue, we had to change some things around, and it caused a delay. And it's okay. It's fine. We're going to recapture it. We're going to get ahead, and the project's still moving along, but it's a delay. And it's frustrating, and I don't like it either, especially when you start a job and you want to keep the progress going, and all of a sudden we stop, and what's going on? For the listeners involved there, we had to navigate some permitting issues on the front end, having to do with lift stations and whatnot, and easements and things of that nature.
Utilities in general, right?
Proud to say we just got our big utility. Yep. We got it.
We just got it.
So
what is today's date? Today's we're filming this. What month is this? July 29th.
July 29th.
Is this July 29th? Yeah.
So we
got the permit July 28th or 7th, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So we're kind of, we got sidetracked a little bit on that, but
I didn't realize I heard we got a permit like a year ago or something like that. Oh, we got the permit. I thought there was just one permit.
No.
I guess there's a whole bunch of permits.
God love you.
That just shows you what little bit I know.
There's utilities permit, there's site work clearing permits, there's a building permit, there's all these different permits, but yes. So we did anticipate a couple of problems in the beginning, but we're navigating through them, continuing. We're getting through it now. It's about to resume and get rocking and rolling again. So
I think the timeline. We met the other day and talked about timeline. Mm-hmm. We're thinking timeline now is going to be probably summer.
Mm-hmm. We're still on track with that.
It was going to be right there at Easter time.
And
Easter came early.
I know.
Easter came early. We talked.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it would have been a disaster. I mean, honestly, in some ways, and I don't want to say that this delay is a blessing, because I don't want to cause anybody to go, well, they were blessed by that delay. How about this delay?
Yeah.
I'd like to not have any more delays, but at the same time, that delay actually kind of probably helped us a little bit, because we're going to be out of the busiest part of our season, and going into the new building right at Easter would have been a really. I mean, you need to have. We're going to need 3 solid weeks. Of learning before we even open the doors to public.
Yeah, I like to share that. They wouldn't mind. We built the church campus for the bridge. Just a little while ago.
And they've been, by the way, let me say shout out to the bridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've been so great, encouraging us and helping us know realities, and they've been just.
We had our challenges.
They've partnered with us. Our teams, departments have met. They're just great. So go ahead. Yeah.
The whole team there. They've been fantastic.
Yeah.
We had a lot of stressful times in there, but we had challenges on that project as well. So when we started, Mark Beebe and his team designed a church. For the listeners who don't know, the Bridge Church is, for lack of a better description, they've been a nomadic church for a long time, a very long. I don't know the exact count. I want to say it's
12 years.
It's over a decade. I know that.
Yeah.
So never had a home, wandering in the desert, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So when they finally, through a series of events, they purchased some property, or they received some property on River Road, and they designed a church. There's a lot of excitement, and we started there, but then their numbers were growing, and maybe we should consider expanding it a little bit. So the design changed a little bit.
See, that's what happened with us.
So we're part of the conversation. Yeah. So we bid it one way, or we budget it one way, and then the design changes, and then we ended up doing that 3 times. I mean, and for the listeners who don't know, when you're in construction, to do a full bid out, I don't have the words to behind the scenes of what it's involved. Shout out to my team. You don't want to have any gaps. You don't want to have any overlaps. You want to be sure it's tight and it's right. And you got to, basically, you put it all out to the bidders. A lot of questions come out. You have to manage those questions, inside and out. It's a lot of work. Love to do it, proud to do it. But then just to make it fun, we had 2 hurricanes in the middle of all this during the construction.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
So the funny thing is you talked about the Easter. All of this, basically, all these delays, all these redesigns, when are we going to be done? Everybody likes to know that. It just kept moving. It was a
when
moving. It just kept pushing because all these things kept happening. Well, wouldn't you know it? We're gonna everything was slated to finish up at like I don't remember the exact date, but like the first week of January. And you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. They're going to fight for getting in for Christmas Eve.
Wouldn't it be great if we could get in there for Easter?
Yeah, I know. I get it.
And if you could imagine like the scene, like everybody in my team is like looking at me with knives and say, Jess, if you promise anything, we'll kill you. Like, don't you dare. So I didn't. But I sort of did. I mean, I said, we're going to do everything we can to push it along. Now, again, for the listeners that may not know, when you go to the end of a project, like we're dealing with this with Venice Christian School right now, finishing it up, and it's not just a simple inspection. There's multiple jurisdictions that all get their pound of flesh that, the fire marshal wants to do with their inspections, the building department wants to do their inspections, and then they don't really talk, and it's very complicated, but it's always a challenge to get through it. And in a lot of respects, even though we have checklists and it's a little different with every little project. And every project has a couple little wrinkles because sometimes the inspector will say, well, I want this or I want that. And you're not anticipating that. And a lot of times these inspections are sequential. You can't get the next one until, so it's...
Yeah, that's I've seen that too, where it's like, we can't do this because we're waiting on that guy to do this.
Exactly. So with the bridge, basically, we're going to push it the best we can. And we're going to say, well, we got right to it literally came down to one inspection by one jurisdiction by one person. I had to, do my best to it was a inspection that was out of sequence. So I don't know if the building department folks were upset at us or not, but we were calling favors in. And on one hand, just what you just said, you articulated that, part of me wants to get them in for Christmas because it's pretty, but at the other hand, we want to turn over the building when it's good. Now, if anybody's ever moved in a house or bought a house, to make the example, when you move in a house for the first time, your house is beautiful. If it's a brand new house, all the walls are immaculate. When you move in, the builders bang everything up. There's scrapes and things, or you notice things that maybe you didn't catch before.
Right.
That's how building is too. So in a perfect world, under perfect conditions, take the calendar away. You want to move in and you want to make sure everything's working, and just there's little quirks. So maybe a room is hot and you need to adjust the vents, a door's not working right. We were going full throttle, 100% trying to make Christmas, and I will call it a blessing in disguise. We did not basically be able to get the inspection when we needed to, but what ended up happening is because of that, we didn't have the Christmas service there, but we were able to commission out the building the way we wanted to. So it worked out in the end, for sure.
What moment are you looking forward to the most about this project being done?
Your first baptism.
No,
take that back. So I have done enough church projects in my career, not big ones like this, but I've remodeled more little projects here and there in churches. And I read an article years ago that said, and I could be wrong on this, I'm kind of going into your lane a little bit, but for an unchurched person to come to a church, it's very traumatic for them, especially the guy. Usually, and I don't know if there's any truth to this.
No, it's absolutely, yeah.
Usually it's the spouse or the wife, and they say, hey, we should go to church. And reluctantly, the husband doesn't want to go. It's usually the guy. And again, I'm stereotyping, I know. And they come here, and there's a lot of people holding their hands up in the air, and and they too many smiling people, and all these things. And I read this article that said how important the bathroom is, because the easiest place for somebody to hide and get out of a conversation is they have to use the restroom. And I told that to my team. We were remodeling a bathroom, and I said, this is going to give a little hideout. I mean, you joke, but a little bit. For those who don't know me, I'm very sarcastic. I said, no matter what, let's make sure we screw up the tile right in front of the urinal, because that's why everybody stares. You know what I mean? Yeah. But my point I'm trying to tell you is that architecture plays a role. And your question is what are you looking forward to? I know with 100% certainty what's going to happen. There's going to be a young family that's going to drive by this pretty building. And it's not for me to say, should a pretty building bring somebody to Christ? But you know what? It will. It will. It's a nice church. And they're going to come in here and they're going to need somebody. And eventually they're going to know somebody. One of your greeters making coffee or doing something, just going to strike up a conversation. And that's enough to get them to the next Sunday. And by the third Sunday, they know somebody. And that's going to lead to a Bible study, and that's eventually going to lead somebody to Christ. And that's going to happen because we have a cool building. And I'll take a little credit for that.
Yeah,
so
yeah, you should.
If we can play a role. So I'm proud of that. So you answer the question, what are you looking forward to? It's the stories I'll never know.
Yeah.
It's the stories I'll never know this side of heaven. But I mean, that's what's cool. I mean, that's it. That's why we do this sort of thing. You know what I mean? And so I'm excited for that at the end of the day.
Well, thanks for, I'm glad that I got to know you on a more personal level too than just hiring you as a company, and you guys are great, and we're looking forward to this year together and all the things that we have to make adjustments for, and figuring out how to live in the same space that we're building construction. That's always a challenge.
We'll figure it out.
If you were going to say one final thing to the folks at Centerpoint, this is mostly, mostly people in our church that are maybe interested in what's going on with the building, or be ones watching this. If you've got that as your audience, what would you want to say to those folks as last words here?
I always say, whenever it comes to a building project, you got to leave a little room for God. I'll leave it at that. God has to have a little bit of room to work, even if it's praying for an inspection, fundraising, or anything like that. Leave a little room for God.
Hey, that's a good question, actually. What can we be praying for you guys at J2, you specifically? What can we be praying for the building? Like, what can our people, we have a lot of people that they're prayer warriors. What can we be praying for?
For your team, but I would, on that end, I would want your team, your prayer team, to know that you don't realize it's not J2. And I can't tell you enough. It ain't me. It surely ain't Jess. It ain't J2. There's literally, I'd probably say hundreds, maybe even thousands of people ultimately that are going to be touching this project. We hire the electricians, we hire the plumbers and all these people. And these workers come out here, but there's people behind the scenes that care and love you guys as a church that are helping you in ways through donations and other things like that to help this project along. I can't give enough thanks to the people that have already contributed in many different ways, time, talent, and treasure, to keep this project going. But I will tell you, in my experience, pray that the obstacles that are going to be put before us inevitably, pray for those and the good people to help us navigate those. Because we will encounter them. There will be more.
There will be more. Absolutely. Anytime you're going to do something that's going to make a difference in the community for the kingdom of God, the enemy's going to do everything they can to slow that down and stop it. But so we'll be praying. We'll be praying for you too and your family. And thanks for coming on and doing this with me. And I'm happy to talk to your team to let them know that what they're doing is making an eternal difference, what they're doing out there on our property. And so thank you guys for watching and tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.
I got to say, I learn something new every time we connect this way. There are so many amazing people and stories at Centerpoint, but we all have one common goal: to love God and love people. I'm Pastor Mitch Todd, and I want to invite you personally to visit us at Centerpoint Christian Church on Center Road in Venice, Florida, or join us online at centerpoint.cc. Thanks for connecting with us.